Excuse me. Is there anything else I can help you with? I know you were interested in the fedoras. I can show you those.
Yeah, on second thought, I don't think so.
Well, the restroom is for paying customers only.
Well, I browsed with intent to buy, but unfortunately I didn't really see anything that was of interest to me.
In your previous condition, how much would you have paid to use the restroom?
500.
500? Wow.
You're listening to League Podcast Curbcast, Season 12, Episode 2, The Lawn Jockey. I'm Matt Durson.
Claynferno here.
All right, welcome back if you listened to our last one. And if you didn't, you should, because...
Shame on you.
Oh, shame on you. For many reasons, though, not just because it's fun and we, work hard on it, but it's also, this episode kind of continues right off of that. So it can be like, you can continue the podcast, too. Right? Sometimes Curb does this. It's not like a part 2 kind of deal, but it's, the story continues. It's not just like
it's kind of like what do they call it in storytelling? Like the inciting event. I think that's the wrong word, but it's like the event that is sparking all the theme for probably the whole season is
right.
Like that Maria Sophia took those glasses off of Larry's head, and that it's done all of this.
Right, because they had to give the glasses back to her. And that's when he gave the water to her in line while Auntie Ray was in line to vote. He gave her water and then he was arrested. So yeah, that's where we are. But you're right. Yes, I think inciting event sounds pretty good. Or I'm sure there's a technical writing term for it, but
it's close if it's not the exact word that people actually use. We're not film students. Some of us aren't.
Well, I mean, this is all writing is. Film is just one thing, but yeah. So, we start out. Larry is in prison, not like federal, not like Shawshank.
Jail.
Yeah, I mean, he's in jail.
He's in jail.
He's a prisoner, and he's in
prison is like when you get sent to Leavenworth or whatever.
Right.
Bugs Bunny.
He's not.
But jail is just like in the drunk tank.
Yeah, basically, he's in. I forget what they call it. Whatever. Holding. That's
no touching.
So he's talking to a fellow prisoner,
Emmett,
this guy, like Southern guy, he's got a hat that's all ripped up. He's got like a big red bushy beard and everything. And he's like, I'll tell you, every time
he's like
I
a
lay
Larry
down,
the Cable Guy ripoff, kind of.
He is. You're right. He totally is. And
I had to look it up. I thought it maybe was Larry the Cable Guy, but it's not. Some other actor. No, but this guy won. He won one of those TV shows like Last Comic Standing or something. I think this is his first acting. But he's a up and coming comedian. That guy.
John Reap. If you keep your eyes out for him. He's pretty funny. But anyway, so he.
You're a redneck when.
He's basically saying he gets uncomfortable when he lays down, his stomach and everything. And Larry says he may have a lactose intolerance.
He's like, listening through the things. He's like, do you eat a lot of cheese, sour cream, cottage cheese? He lists off all these things. He's like, I love all of it. That's all I eat.
I know. And he says, well, if you want to feel better. And he's like, I know what you mean. Who doesn't like a slice of camembert on a cracker? I mean, I had to look that up. I mean, Emmett says, I never heard of that shit. He says, what is that? He says, it's a soft cheese. I didn't even know what that was. I was like, what is camembert? But
I only know from my recent grocery store experience.
Look at you. So it did help.
Cheese.
Yeah. And then he says, I had to give up these special almonds. And he talked this is definitely I don't know if this is like a Trump thing, because Trump is
it's so like rich. A rich guy, poor guy thing, really.
Yeah, but I mean, is it kind of like maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I mean, there's a lot of things in here, sort of political statements, not really overt political statements, but little things, little nods. And I don't know if that's like Trump tries to be like, I'm one of you, but he's like ridiculously rich and everything. You know, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of Trump in this season, which, you know, obviously we'll get there. There's way more obvious ones later. But yeah, like you were saying, like Trump tries to be an everyman, but he really kind of isn't.
Right,
But
exactly.
I just saw this as sort of like a, you know, even just like a working class guy from Boston might not know what camembert is, right?
Right.
But Larry eats like fancy almonds and camembert trees because he's a fucking billionaire. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like he's just used to like rich people stuff.
Sure, yeah, but I mean, we'll see later how, you know, money is part of the storyline, and it kind of is, but it's usually Larry's sort of. I mean, obviously he can afford. Yeah, we'll get there with the jacket, but like he can afford anything you know, in the world, but it's more the principle of like he shouldn't have to do it. But
yeah, exactly.
But anyways, yeah, so he's talking about this fancy almond, and you put a little sea salt, whatever. I don't even know.
Oil.
Yeah, truffle oil. He does like a chef's kiss, and goes, I don't know what any of that shit is, or whatever. So now they come to get Larry, and he is free to go. And his lawyer comes in, and he looks, he's very familiar.
They like zoom in on his fake mustache, which I thought was hilarious.
It's so bushy.
Yeah, it's so fake. It's so great.
I know. So this is Savario Guerra, who played Mocha Joe in obviously the Spite Store season, and also Mocha Joe from way back in the Seinfeld season, because that's where we first met Mocha Joe. He was the coffee guy on the set, right. Like on the lot. Mm-hmm. So they just keep bringing it back, but I love it. He's not Mocha Joe this time. He's Joe D'Angelo, the lawyer. But his voice is exactly the same, and Larry, everything is the same except for the big fake mustache. And Larry's just kind of looking at him. and Emmett comes up and is like, "Hey, man, you should take my number. We'll stay in touch." And Larry's like, "Oh, can you get this guy's number? I don't, you know, whatever." So he gives him his number, but Larry's just befuddled by the fact that this guy looks exactly like Mocha Joe. But anyway, they're walking out, and Larry says, "Look, I just want to plead guilty, you know, the stupid giving the water to someone in line. I just want to plead guilty and go home." And he said, "No problem." So they go outside, and Larry's got a throng of people cheering for him, saying
yeah,
"Give me a drink" and stuff like that, like weird signs, and they're clapping for him. And Joe says, "You're a liberal, darling."
Yeah. And also, there's another kind of like Trump parallel thing where, you know how like Trump has all these civil cases and then like criminal cases with the Justice Department. So Larry is kind of like saying like, he's like, "Thanks for getting me out of this." He's like, "You know, I was down here and this guy won't pay me." And Mocha Joe, the lawyer, is like, "You know, like, let's take care of this criminal charge." Right. And then he kind of trails off. He's like, "Before we take care of that like civil thing."
I know.
So it's kind of like, you know, a parallel with that too.
Yeah, it's never one thing, you know, like I guess. But anyway, so Jeff is also outside waiting for Larry, and he says, "We got an Airbnb, you know, like you're all set. Your luggage is there. You're all set." He's like, "Oh, thanks." Meanwhile, they're like, "That guy looks like Mocha Joe." Apparently, Jeff hired him over the phone, never met him. And he's like, "I'm sorry. If I knew that's what he looked like, I wouldn't have hired him." But he's like, "I have a natural antipathy."
And then I think that he said that the lawyer called him and was like, you know,
maybe, I don't know. He said somebody recommend or whatever. Like he recommended him and he was the best or whatever. Yeah. But sight unseen is the point.
Well, I guess I'm going to wait till later, but I read an interesting theory that I'm going to bring up later.
All right. So very good.
I could bring it up now, but I'm going to wait till later. It'll be better later.
All right, stay tuned. So meanwhile, as a little foreshadowing, Larry once again remarks on Jeff's dyed hair. So that's just a little, you know, we'll get there.
And he's like, "Do you like it?" He's like, "Yeah, I love it." And he's like, "I don't think you're being honest with you, pal."
Yeah, I don't think you do.
And then he's like, "Give me a hug." "I don't think you do."
So they get to their Airbnb. They have like an Uber, and there's like it's Larry's telling this ridiculous story. I don't know if it'll come back. It never came back in this episode, but Larry's when he was in jail, he read Scientific American, and there was an article.
He tells Susie about it later too.
Yeah, there's an article about your finger because we've been using our finger to put on shoes, our index finger to put on shoes for so long that over time humans have evolved and the index finger has gotten flatter. And Jeff says, that's bullshit, American. That's what that is. But,
yeah, it's not Scientific American.
So, anyways, there was a lawn jockey, and I don't know, for those who don't know, it's just a statue on your lawn, basically, a lawn jockey. But this one is like kind of racist. It's black, and what is he supposed to be? He's got like a lantern. Is it just like, is he supposed? Well,
that's like all. I did do the Wikipedia search on lawn jockeys because
very good.
But I also remember sort of. I guess I'm not like gonna say that like. I kind of remember them being a thing, but then they weren't anymore. We'll see that they don't necessarily need to be black, but the symbol of the lawn jockey that's black kind of, it portrays marginalized people as like a product and a thing, like not a person, So like in the late 70s, there was a big, like, everybody's like, we got to get rid of these fucking things, like, so, and it shows up in other art and literature and, this whole book's like written about like, people stealing them and like getting in trouble and stuff like that. So it's like it's a pretty divisive, like racial kind of, red flag, but still they are around. And they can be other races and stuff, but they are a thing. But people kind of have phased them out. Like, it's kind of like the Aunt Jemima bottle.
I was going to make that same comparison, because this one actually kind of looked like an Aunt Jemima bottle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So it's kind of like something that maybe people don't think of as being like problematic. I mean, they do now, but like when we grew up, like I poured Aunt Jemima syrup on my pancakes and didn't think that it was racist or anything. It was just my pancake.
Well, I think that's the problem.
You know what I mean?
People didn't think it was racist.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we'll get there, but I don't. I'm not surprised Curb Your Enthusiasm would cover.
And I was waiting for what does happen, which was like, I was like, oh man, is like Leon gonna show up? What's he gonna say? So.
Yeah. And they are actually taking down a lot of those Confederate statues and stuff in the South. Like the Civil War like statues and stuff that were, they're taking a lot of them down. So
and Susie's whole thing is that she was the one that got the Airbnb, and she didn't look at the outside of the house. She didn't know that it was there. Or even if you're scrolling through Airbnb, you might see it in the picture, but it might not register. Like, I'm not going to get that one because it has Airbnb. Because it has a lawn jockey, a black lawn jockey. Yeah. So, anyways, Jeff and Larry are like, oh God, that thing is terrible. So they're not in favor of it. We should just point out. So anyway, Susie is basically like, not that she thinks it's great, but she's like, well, I don't want to lose my security deposit on this place. Like, who cares? It's not our house. Just fucking leave it alone.
Right.
Just ignore
exactly what she says. It's not our house. But anyway, but when they go in, this might be my favorite part now. So they go in and she is watching the news, and they're talking about Larry giving out water in line, protesting this law, and they're so happy. They have Stacey Abrams, like a quote from Stacey Abrams about how great you have to stand up to this, and then Bruce Springsteen of all people is on there, and he says,
"Great cameo."
It's just so great. He's got all the guitars behind him. I mean, it's so perfect. And Bruce says, he's also backing Larry, of course. And he says, involvement is his middle name. Larry Involvement David. Like,
yeah.
Like, what an awesome, he must have had so much fun thinking like sending up himself, basically, right? Larry Involvement David. Like, what an amazing thing just to have him on is fine, but what a line.
Yeah, but Bruce is obviously like politically active and everything. And Stacey Abrams, I have to drop a little knowledge too. she's like totally game, and I think she's amazing. And if she ran for governor here or something, I would vote for her. But she's also a total nerd and has been on like the season of Star Trek Discovery happens way in the future. Like they do a time travel when they go like 1,000 years in the future or something like that. And she plays like the president of Starfleet, basically. She plays like the president of the
Federation.
The Federation president in Star Trek Discovery too. She's like, and I've seen interviews with her when she was on it, because she was like, I just love Star Trek my whole life. And, like, this is such an honor to play. So it's just, she's so great. And represents Georgia, but also has a little TV cameo here. I just thought that was cool.
Classic. So anyway, they talk about, like you said, like, they're like, what stupid lawn jockey? And they're like, hey, Susie just says, it's not your house. So Larry and Jeff are talking about a meeting with Hulu tomorrow. They have a Zoom meeting with Hulu. I don't know what for, probably some TV project, whatever. And Susie says, oh no working on my birthday. And Larry is like, what? What is it, some kind of national holiday? But no work on her birthday. And so they're all like pissed. But they're also, Jeff's more sweating the fact that he doesn't have a gift for her yet. And Larry suggests buy 2 gifts. You give her one, and if the reaction is, so-so, because it's only one, then you give her the second one. But if she likes the first one, then you don't have to get the second one.
Brilliant scam.
It's a good scam.
I was thinking, like, if I only got Stacy one thing, it better be a really good thing for her birthday. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not giving somebody just one gift.
I mean, I see your point. It would be the same thing for me too. But I figured Jeff and Susie have been married for like however long, like decades, and it's probably just like, whatever, get me something.
Yeah, and their thing is that basically it's almost like my WeWork situation. Like, Jeff's gift to Susie is actually hanging out with her and not working her that day.
Yeah,
like
right,
it's that the gift is like, it's our holiday. But it's so funny because Larry says, man, that's just awful to have to think about another person. It's terrible. The way he says it is so funny. It's just terrible having to think about another person like that.
Anyway, that's their scam. So they're talking about that. And then I love this shot. Like, you can see through the window behind Larry's head that Leon is walking up, and he stops and looks down and he says, what the fuck? And he's looking at the lawn jockey. Then he comes in the house and he's like, what the fuck? You guys, like, like, he's like, what, you just fist bump him on the way in? And they're like, no, it's terrible. It's
we don't like it. We don't like it.
Yeah, we don't like it. We don't like it. So they're like, you know what? Let's put it in the garage. So all the 3 of them will go out there and they're carrying it. And they're like, you got it. And then it looks to me like Larry's the one that trips, because he's the one who ends up like on the ground. And they break the thing.
Oh, I'm gonna look right now because I have it.
All right.
Like, playing.
I mean, whatever. It doesn't really matter who.
No, I'm just curious. Yeah. But also, this is like, do you remember there was an episode 2 seasons ago where I was like, this is just like classic comedy. They almost do like Three Stooges kind of shit. This is more of that. This is more like Three Stooges.
I know. Of course they're gonna. Right. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, you can see the Three Stooges doing something like this. So Susie comes out. She sees the broken lawn jockey, and she's pissed because she wants her security deposit back because it's an Airbnb. It's just she's like, go get another one. What the fuck were you doing, moving it, whatever, blah blah blah, swearing at him, just like classic Susie. And they're like, okay, we'll get another one.
And she's like, so it has to be a black one. She says it too.
Yeah. So I mean, this is the thing too, and I know like that's I've never rented like a house through Airbnb, so I don't know how much her deposit is. But Jeff was also saying, I don't want to break the bank on buying her a gift. So yeah, I don't know. We were talking about money earlier. I figured Jeff and Susie must have decent money too.
Well, 10% of what Larry gets.
Yeah, right. I'm sure it's pretty good.
It does kind of look like Larry, kind of in an old man kind of way, just kind of can't handle carrying this thing. It looks like he's at fault. But he looks very. The reason I mention it though is that when he falls and everything, is very feeble. You know what I mean? Like showing his age.
He is.
Like Leo could have probably carried the damn thing himself.
Leon, yeah, probably. I mean, but he said something about like I had the heavy part, and they're like, "You asked for the heavy part."
Yeah, right.
They're all fighting over who did it, but meanwhile, yeah, Susie's just like, "Just get another one." So they got to go buy another one, but Larry, I love Larry says, "Can we do it on your birthday?" Which is pretty funny. So, anyways, they also had to go buy Susie's gift, so it's fine. So they go to this store, this shitty store that is basically like all kinds of stuff that Susie would wear. It's all this gaudy, stupid, I can't even. I don't know what kind of store.
No offense, like kind of like Jersey, Long Island housewife style.
You're right. Yeah, it exactly probably is. So Jeff says, "I'm gonna go next door to Sunglass Hut, and I'm gonna get gift number 1. You guys stay here, find gift number 2." So Leon and Larry are in the shitty store, and Larry says, "I've got a job."
Yeah, I've got a job.
And he says, "I got to drop the kids off at the pool." That is kind of an old man thing too, I guess. I don't know. Have you ever? I've never used that one. I've definitely heard it.
Oh, I've used that. Yeah.
Oh, really? Well,
not like recently, but I've definitely used it.
He's got to take a shit. Is basically what he's saying, and which is so. This is. I know this. Whatever. Maybe it was a real emergency, but I can't see Larry using a public restroom for such an occasion.
Well, it's not really a public restroom. It's the store restroom in a fancy place.
I guess you're right. Maybe he'll make the exception. I mean, like there was that. Do you remember the one? It was Funkhauser's like anniversary or whatever. I think, or no, it was something that Funkhauser was trying to recreate a special night, and Larry was supposed to give like a toast, but he went home because he had to use the bathroom, but he wanted to use his own bathroom.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? I remember Funkhauser got so mad, and he's like, "My night was ruined because Larry David had to go home and take a shit." It was just. Always cracks me up. But anyways, so
I don't want to open the kimono too much, but I'm bathroom agnostic. I
know. I think we had this conversation recently.
Yeah, but some people prefer the home bowl, especially for a job like that.
Yeah, you gotta.
But I could see Larry going. I could see Larry because it's basically like being in someone's nice house. Being in this like store bathroom, it's not like a Target bathroom.
Right. All right. I mean, I'll let it slide this time. No, but so, and like I said, maybe it's a real emergency. So you gotta go. You gotta go. So he asks. So Leon says, "You gotta buy some of this motherfucker," So they ask a salesperson. A salesperson comes over to them and says, "Oh, can I help you with anything?" And he's, we have some lovely white brimmed hats or something like that. He's like, "Oh, a fedora." Oh, yeah.
I love a fedora.
And he says, "Do you have a restroom?" And the guy says, "Oh, you want to use the restroom?"
Then he's like, "Now?"
Yeah, I know.
Because he's like saying like, in general, do you have a restroom or you need to go now?
He's like, yeah. He says, yeah. So he says, "All right." He tells him where it is. Now, Larry we only see him washing his hands vigorously.
And then what do you think of his sense technique where he was like...
I don't think that works. I'll say that. I can't imagine
having that thought and then carrying through,
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the episode, he's watching and they're covered in soap. He sort of waves his hands around the room and near the toilet and everything.
He's like blessing the air in there.
Yeah, it's almost like throwing holy water on it or something. But yeah, he's putting his soapness, I guess, around, So, and then he sniffs a little and he's satisfied and goes back up.
Yeah, and I think that the salesman definitely knows that he took a shit in there.
Yeah,
because he's like, because he's like, that's what he's most offended by, really.
It seems like he's offended by not them. No, he does it's for paying customers. So yeah, Larry goes back out. He says, "Oh, would you like to see the fedoras?" And Larry's like, "Nah." And and he says, "Oh, the rest of them is for paying customers." And he said, "I browsed, but didn't see anything to my liking." He said, "I browsed with the intent to buy." But this is my favorite part. The salesman says, "How interested were you in your previous condition?" He says, "How much you would have paid to use the restroom?"
Previous condition.
I know. How much would you have paid to use the restroom? And Larry says, $500. Like, yeah, he's $500. Guy's like, oh, $500. So anyway, Jeff comes in. He's got his sunglasses. He's very excited. And he's like, what did you guys find? And Larry says, oh, what did we find? That sort of fake. And he just kind of turns around and says, well, that. And it's like a purse with like a little animal on it or whatever. It's really gaudy and terrible. But Jeff says, that's perfect. I'll buy it.
More expensive than the glasses too, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, they don't say, but they say it's expensive. But this is obviously the second gift, so they may not need to give it to her. But anyways, so Larry says, see, now I am a paying customer. And the salesman says, no, your friend is. You're just someone who pooped in our toilet. So it's kind of funny. So they go home, and we see Jeff hiding his gifts for Susie in the treehouse that's out in the backyard of this Airbnb. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, he just kind of chucks it in there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he doesn't care. So meanwhile, Larry is out at like a lawn and garden store kind of thing, or a garden store, and like looking for a lawn jockey. And they've got a bunch of them, but they're all white. And this big black guy comes over and asks if he needs any help. And Larry says, yeah, I was looking at these. Maybe do you have a darker one?
Do you watch that show, The Bear?
No, we are gonna watch that. I hear it's excellent.
Yeah, this is another sort of cameo because he's on The Bear.
Oh, nice.
He's really great in it.
He's great, actually. His comic timing here is incredible because Larry's like, yeah, black. And he's like, oh, black. He's like, look, it's a long story. Now, Larry could have told them the story, right? I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things that Larry just doesn't do, I guess. But
yeah. And he's just like, yeah, it's a long story. He's like, yeah, 400 years long.
Yeah, it's 400 years. Started in Nigeria. And but Larry could have just said, all right, look, I'm staying in an Airbnb and I broke it and now I need to replace it, right? I mean, he did say I need to replace it, but I mean, the guy's not buying it anyway, I guess, so who cares? But
it's like, do you have any paint?
Paint?
No, we don't have any paint. We don't have any shoe polish. We don't have any tar.
Yeah, we don't have any. So he buys it.
He's like, well, I need to replace it. Oh, so you already had one.
Right. I mean, like everything Larry says is like the wrong answer. And so he buys it, and Jeff is like, what do we do? And they actually Jeff starts looking at, Larry starts looking at Jeff's hair, and he's like, what are you looking at? And so we focus on his hair. So they use a hair dye, just for men too, to paint the statue darker, as Larry might say, to look like the other one. And Susie shows up, and it's weird. She's fooled, but they have to leave the thing out there. They're kind of, I guess they're not going to put it in the house. They were going to put it in the garage before, but it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, no, they're kind of just replacing it because they already know they're in trouble. So,
yeah, you're right. Why risk moving it again? So, anyways, it's funny too. There's a quick mention. I missed this the first time. But the first time I watched it, Larry says, he looks kind of familiar. I can't put my finger on it. But I couldn't put my finger on it either. But later on, figured it out. So anyways, Susie ends up, she loves the sunglasses. She says they're a great memento for our trip to Atlanta. You did good, Jeff. So he doesn't need to give her the other gift. Larry and Jeff give kind of like a little like wink and a nod. Like, So then he's like, oh, hey, I need to go see the lawyer tomorrow. And I need Jeff because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, Larry like way overacts like I don't know what I'm doing, and I love it when he turns up that's like when he's being so fake, but he's just trying to lie his way through a situation. Yeah, it's not going to take long. I promise. Oh, I'm so sorry. I know it's your birthday.
Yeah, he's like, is it? And she's like, well, this is a real life thing, so sure. Like, yeah, but be back.
And on his way out, he's telling Susie about the shoehorn finger.
The shoehorn finger, that's right. All right, so they go outside to the treehouse, and Jeff pulls out the other gift, and Susie happens to see them on the ring cam. Like,
that's right, yeah.
Like, and see them like high-fiving because they're so happy they can return this, and Jeff doesn't have to, pay for it. He gets money back. You two,
and then we get like the best Susie when she's just like,
I know, yeah,
swearing and shit, like, you sneaky cocksuckers, what the fuck are you doing back there?
So I'm going to tell you a story, little side note here. Our neighbors, whose door looks directly into our living room. They're on the second floor, and we are as well. So like they have a staircase that goes into their apartment, and it looks right into our living room, which, whatever. But they get a lot of visitors, and they put up like a ring cam because we used to get people coming and knocking all the time. So I don't know why. I mean, none of these people have keys or whatever, obviously, but they would come and bang on the door. So now they got this ring cam, and we were like, they probably can see right in, like, to our house. Like, we were a little disturbed. I don't know.
I don't exactly understand how the ring camera's not outside. It's in the hallway.
No, they live like across the alley. There's like an alley separating
across. Okay, yeah, across.
Sorry, I should have been more specific there. Yeah. So
usually when you're talking about your neighbors, you're talking about the ones in your building.
In the building. No, I'm sorry, you're right. This is the building next door, and there's like an alleyway that separates our two houses, and so they can see right into our condo. And first we were like, that's a little weird. And I looked it up, and then technically they are allowed to do it as long as they are using it for security, whatever. Like, but then Rachel also looked up like the brand of ring cam they have, and she's like, it's pretty cheap. They probably can't see anything.
Yeah, they probably can't see that far.
Right. You can't see.
And then God forbid something happens. Someone tries to break into your living room, you can say, well, those neighbors have a camera pointed at us.
I guess so. We can see. They'd probably be the ones breaking in, but yeah. Anyways, but yeah, so these people have a ring cam on their Airbnb, and it looks out into the treehouse, and they see Jeff and Larry high-fiving, and they're gonna go return this thing right now. Like, this is it. And they see that same salesman who was talking to Larry yesterday,
and he's funny. He looked familiar to me, but I looked him up on IMDb. I don't think I've seen him on anything. Maybe I've seen a little bit of Search Party on HBO, but I didn't really love that show, even though it has great people in it. So maybe I recognize him from there. But he's a funny actor.
He's really funny. Yeah, I tried to look him up too, and I couldn't find anything that I had seen him in. But and he's really mad. He's like, we'd like to return it. He's like, oh, really? And so I kept thinking, like, is he mad because Larry like stunk up the bathroom or something?
I think so.
Or is it? It's implied, certainly. But I think he's just more mad that just Larry didn't buy anything, and it's for paying customers.
Yeah, well, also I think because people in that kind of retail position, they make commission off their sales. So
right.
This guy, so Jeff is returning the gift. So even if Jeff paid $500 for that purse, then now he's returning it, so he's not going to make any money. So I think he's more kind of mad that he didn't buy something, but also mad that he used the bathroom without buying anything.
Right.
Like the principle of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But made worse by the fact that now he's like basically losing money.
Sure.
Because he goes, he asks Larry, how do you feel about this when he goes to return? How do I feel about it? I'm not even the customer. He goes, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting, like, double, like I could see Larry, what's the difference if I use your bathroom? But this guy, lives on commission. So I don't know. One of those things. So Larry finally says, fine, all right, I'll buy something. And this guy he completely turns on the charm now. He grabs this like checkered coat, like a sports jacket. And he says, I think this really brings out your eyes. And Larry and Jeff.
The thing is so ugly.
It is terrible. Yeah.
But Jeff and Larry totally are like, yeah, it is kind of good. Maybe because they're idiots. You know what I mean? So. I think probably because they're idiots. They're like, yeah, it does bring out your eyes because they don't know that it looks good or not. You know what I mean?
I know. It looks, it's weird. I don't know why you would think it looks good. Maybe that they're just trying to say that this store just sells so much shit. Like this is the kind of crappy store. Like, why would you buy anything? But I love it. They say, oh, you look like a Southern gentleman. Or maybe that's what Larry says about himself. I suppose that's what he says.
Yeah, it does bring out my eyes.
Yeah, look like a Southern gentleman. All right, I'll take it. How much? $650. So the guy even upsold a little bit there, because he said $500. He would pay $500.
Yeah, he's sticking it to him. Yeah, sticking it to Larry.
Sticking it.
Or Larry.
So
Larry.
Larry. All right, but anyway, he buys it. So next, he's got to meet with the lawyer, and he goes to Auntie Ray's house because I guess they're going to meet there for discuss the case. And she's talking about how she had been there for 2.5 hours, and it was so hot, and Larry just went right over and gave her water. And he comes in and he meets with Mocha Joe, the lawyer, Lawyer Joe, and Larry says, "Yes, I'm going to plead guilty." Auntie Ray's not happy with that. She says, "You got to fight. You got to fight."
Yeah, because basically, if he pleads guilty, he can use his money and just pay the bail and fucking go home.
Right. And he says, "I don't want to go to jail." I know, it's really funny. I mean, who could blame him? But, Auntie Ray is not having it. She wants him to help them fight this law. So he's like, I don't know. So then she gets up. Oh, because Leon is burning something in the kitchen. And he says
This is so funny. So Leon's in the kitchen. He's like, you better not be throwing spaghetti at my ceiling. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, like if it sticks, then it...
Yeah, if it sticks to the wall kind of thing. I didn't know that until I was dating this Jewish girl when I was in college, and she did that. I was like, what are you doing? You're throwing the pasta at the wall. I'm like, Larry, why are you throwing your pasta on your wall? And then he's like, there's no spaghetti sauce. I'm using Heinz ketchup. I'm doing the best I can with this Heinz ketchup and spaghetti.
I know, he's using ketchup. Oh, my God. It reminded me of Goodfellas when he says, right after I got here, I ordered some spaghetti with marinara sauce, and I got egg noodles and ketchup. Oh, man. But yeah, so Auntie Ray has to leave the room for a second. And, Mocha Joe says, so you're still going to plead guilty, right? And he's like, yeah. So
yeah, it's just matter of factly.
Yeah. And then he takes a sip of his coffee and he says, "Oh, this is great coffee. I gotta ask her where I think it's in the beans. I gotta ask her where she got the beans. It's all in the beans. If you don't have the beans, you don't have the coffee," which is exactly what Mocha Joe said to Larry.
Yeah, and Larry's like kind of like goes into like a fugue state. You see him like kind of he's like getting dizzy and like he's so worked up and angry.
And this guy just keeps talking about the beans and the coffee and the beans. And Larry says, all right. Like he finally just snaps and he says, I can't do this anymore. And he says, you remind me of someone I detest. Which is such a great line.
Which is what I said to you in the email earlier, but I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Just so you know, just to be clear.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Sometimes, translation in email and text doesn't really come through. So I'm telling you right now, I didn't mean it. You don't remind me of somebody I detest.
I appreciate that. But I suppose
you are someone I detest.
Oh, So anyway, he comes out. Jeff is there to pick him up, and he says, "I fired the lawyer." He says, Mocha Joe. So he couldn't get past.
Teased at the beginning of the episode when I was looking around at the cameos on this season. Someone had a very good article and showed this actor. You said his name earlier, Mocha Joe.
Yes.
Appearing as Mocha Joe the lawyer, as we're calling him.
Saverio
said something.
Guerra.
Yeah, said something to the effect of, "What if this is the ultimate kind of spite store revenge?" Now, I think what they're positing is, what if Mocha Joe called Jeff and was like, "I'm a lawyer. I want to represent Larry," and did like the bare minimum of represented himself to the court as in disguise.
Well,
did whatever sort of lawyering or just bailed him out and said, "I'm going to be your lawyer," and it's just all bullshit though. And it's actually Mocha Joe so that he could try to send Larry to jail.
I mean, it is,
that's what the article is saying. And it's not an original thought, but I was like, wow, that would be a really good spite store.
Yeah. Mocha Joe's revenge on Larry, just sending him to jail. I mean, that would be crazy if that really was him. But yeah, because he never actually has to go into a courtroom because he gets fired. And I suppose if you're just getting someone out of, anybody could pick someone up in jail and be like, "Oh, I'm his lawyer." I mean, I suppose.
Yeah,
I don't know.
he just
I've never
needs
been
to have
jail.
a suit.
Yeah.
And you know how people, well, it seems like Larry's representing himself in court. He could, Mocha Joe the lawyer could purposely like lose the case for Larry.
Right.
If he thought about it a little, he'd probably have to do some sort of like, kind of like when people go to jail and they like learn the law and they're like, "Oh, I did all this reading so that I could represent myself," or whatever. Like maybe Mocha Joe could do like some research and kind of like learn just enough to fuck it up. And,
maybe.
And really screw Larry. I mean, he ends up getting fired.
Right, but that's, hey, maybe it's even better. I don't know, you'd have to learn the law.
I thought whoever wrote that article was very smart because I didn't think of that. But
no, I didn't think of that either. Good. I didn't think we'd see Mocha Joe the lawyer again. Although maybe we will have to. He's actually going to fight the case. Like we'll have to see. So anyways, they go home, and this is the classic Susie. This is Susie at her best. She's standing out there waiting for them as they drive up.
This is Susie with Sammy's doll head.
That's right. That's exactly what I thought of. I remember that episode. It's like Larry drove up and he just said, "Oh shit!" And she's standing out there and she's like, "Where's the fucking head?" So yeah, she's mad. She saw them on the ring cam getting out this other gift, and she doesn't know it was a gift for her. But she's like, "What do you got? Some Georgia whore out here?" He's like, "No, it was for you." Meanwhile, they were talking about how hot it was. They're sweating because Susie's screaming at him, and Jeff's hair dye starts running down his face because he's so hot.
Like Giuliani and when he had that that press conference, yeah.
So yeah, when Larry, because also the hair dye is sort of melting off the lawn jockey. And Susie looks at it. She's like, "What the fuck is this?" And Larry comes. He says, "Oh, it looks like Giuliani. I knew he looked like an asshole."
It's really funny too because you could tell, like, even though the show isn't overtly political, you can tell these past two seasons how much like Larry's just using his art to like be like, "I really fucking hate Trump. This whole thing is fucking ridiculous." You know what I mean? It's so funny how much they make fun of it.
I mean, I'm glad someone,
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of people kind of, maybe they're afraid because Trump says his second presidency is going to be all about revenge. But
yeah, Larry, but, somebody like Larry, what he doesn't give a fuck.
No, he doesn't give it. But a lot of the, I wish some of the news that I watch, I wish they would just be like, come on, man, this guy's an asshole. But whatever. Anyway, yeah, he says, no wonder I thought he looked like an asshole. He does kind of look like Giuliani. Yeah, from that press conference.
They must have like had the artist on the show like be like, sculpt the head so it looks like Giuliani.
Right. So anyway, Susie says she doesn't want to lose her deposit. They have to go out and get a black one. And so
it's my birthday and you're fucking ruining it.
Right. So they take Leon because and they're like, where do we go to get one of these things? And he's like, oh, you got to go far out. So they go out to like the suburbs, and like this is the sticks. Like this is like suburban Georgia, which I don't know. I've never been there, but it looks.
There's some great improv from Leon in the back too, because he's like, yeah, the lawn jockey thing is such bullshit. Why isn't it like a lawn lawyer? Like,
yeah, right.
The guy standing out there with his briefcase. How about a lawn doctor he's holding out a stethoscope?
Yeah. So they're just driving around, and when they see one on somebody's lawn, Larry gets out and goes up and asks them if he can buy it, and they're like, "No, get the fuck out of here!" And this one guy says, "You that wingnut who came down here and was messing with our elections," and he's got a "Make America Great Again" hat and everything, and he's got like letters. Did you notice? Like it says like "You're so sweet" or something on his door, and those like those squishy jelly letters.
Yeah, I wonder what that's about. I don't know.
I don't know. It just seemed like just a weird thing, but they're all slamming the door in his face, and they're like, "What are we gonna do?" And Larry remembers. He knows a redneck who could probably get him one of these, and he calls Emmett, the guy from jail. And the next
this is classic like Curb too, when they go back to some character. You know, it's like you've seen this scene a million times when Larry calls it, "Oh, Larry, that was great advice you gave me. Thanks." You know? Yeah,
he's like, "I gave up dairy, and I feel great." And and I think I don't know if this is. If he actually says, like, if there's ever anything I can repay you or something, but it's basically there. And so, the next scene, they're putting a lawn jockey in the back of the car, the same lawn jockey, the black one.
And he says, this lawn jockey that I stole off of the church, that's going to be the last thing I steal, I swear to God.
Yeah, he's turned over a new leaf now that he doesn't drink, lactose or eat lactose, I guess. And Larry's like, "Oh, that's great. Let me do something for you." And he gives him the jacket, the $650 jacket. And they're like, "Oh, you look great. Southern gentleman." The guy's all happy. I mean, I wish and I know they're short on time or whatever, but like, I wish we had seen Larry actually wear the jacket somehow. But I guess that wouldn't make sense because of what happens later. But anyway,
because it's like kind of still on a short timeline because it's still like in the bag when he gives it to the guy and everything.
Yeah, he just hands him the thing and puts it on. He's like, "Oh, that's great."
Yeah, because this is all, I think it's like the same day almost.
Yeah, I think this is all pretty much the same day. So anyway, they drive to, I guess it's Auntie Ray's house.
Yes.
Yep, and she's having
I think we do see Brookie there. You were right.
Yeah, Brookie is there, but she doesn't have a role. They were probably just like, "Hey, you want to be on it again?" Or whatever.
Yeah, and like maybe I guess in the story of the show, Auntie Ray and Brookie, they're all in the same neighborhood, so they all go to the same church.
Yeah. It's because this is a church barbecue, Leon says. Yeah. So they get out. She's like, "Come on, have some ribs." She was talking about the ribs earlier. Like, one rib. It's so funny. Anyway, so Auntie Ray's like, "Come on," and she gives Jeff some ribs, and he says, "Oh, they got a kick." But also Larry asks if he could use the bathroom again. He does the same technique,
like the swoosh, like trying to get the soap sent into the air.
Yeah. So meanwhile, Emmett, he's coming out of a liquor store. He's got his banquet beer, his Coors Original banquet beer, not even Coors Light. Oh, that is one of the worst. I'm a beer guy, but I can't drink the Coors. Oh, it's terrible. Anyway.
Well, when I was a beer guy, I was not discriminatory. I drank it. Oh, does it have alcohol in it? I'll drink it.
Yeah.
But that's why I don't drink anymore.
Well, I guess, I don't know, a little more discerning.
The thing is with Emmett was he's rolled up by like black cops. They're like, hey, something that it's like a reverse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's
like,
wearing the jacket. Yeah,
they're like that doesn't look like that guy's jacket, and it's got the tag on it. So the black cops arrest him. And he's like, I just, it's not even mine. I got it from some crazy old man in jail talking about almonds.
I know. That's what he said. He doesn't even know his name, or I guess he does, but yeah. But yeah, it's funny because like they're gonna stop him even before they see the tag. Like they clearly had it in for poor Emmett, but I mean he did steal. He was in jail at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, they don't know that that Emmett stole the lawn jockey. But yeah, that's probably well. Let's assume that that's what he does. That's why he got picked up in the first place. He was in jail because he steals stuff.
He probably but now he's turned over this new leaf. He's got this nice, well, not nice jacket, but an expensive jacket, and they just assume that he stole it. And it does still have the tag, as it turned out. He said, "I didn't know it was. I didn't know it had the tag." So yeah, that's the end of Emmett. Meanwhile, back at the party, Larry's coming out. Pastor Sherman says he's an inspiration. There's this big black guy there, like Southern pastor. We're
I've seen that actor and stuff too.
Oh, really? I don't know. He didn't look familiar. But yeah, he says we're gonna call you Larry Daniel because Daniel walked into the whatever Daniel did. I don't even remember.
I don't even know that biblical reference.
I
don't know a lot of them, but I don't know who Daniel is.
I don't remember. He was an apostle, but yeah. So they're all inspired by Larry, and he's eating it up. You know what I mean? He's like, he loves it. So meanwhile, he's loving them ribs, and Auntie Ray says, "Pack some up, give them to him to take home." And the chef who's making all the food's like, "Yeah, you got it." So he's bringing this like sort of to-go box over to their car, and Larry sees him, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa,
hey!"
Yeah. He opens the back door where the lawn jockey is, and he sees it in there, and then all hell breaks loose. They are very mad once they see that he's got this racist lawn jockey. So.
Yeah, he's no longer the hero.
Yeah, they all turn on him immediately. And in the next scene, the final scene, in the courtroom, the judge reads off the charges. He said he could face a $10,000 fine and up to a year in prison for the water thing. And Auntie Ray is there.
He doesn't have a lawyer. He doesn't have a
lawyer. He fired him. And Auntie Ray is there, and the pastor is there, and they're kind of giving him, the side eye. And he says he pleads not guilty.
Because now he has to atone. You know what I mean? Like he has to.
Right.
And this is all because Maria Sophia took the fucking glasses off his head. You know what I mean?
Now he has to either. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen next week. He either has to, I guess he can use any lawyer. He doesn't need Mocha Joe lawyer. He can call anybody.
He can get he can get a new lawyer for the trial or whatever.
Right, but he must have a lawyer. He must know a lawyer in LA. Like it's not going to be something that I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but
it's also too like the like I keep saying about the Trump parallel stuff. Like if you look at all these various different trials, like the Eugene Carroll one, then there's the election one, then there's the stolen documents one, and then it's like Rudy Giuliani was his lawyer, and then that Sidney Powell was his lawyer, and then we got Alina Habba was his lawyer. Like all these people, they're like just lawyers for all these different cases and stuff. So I feel like there's something, with Larry, it's kind of a comment on all of that stuff too. You know what I mean? Like all
I
the
guess
different
you're right.
legal stuff that's going through.
When you think about Trump, he's fired a lot of his lawyers. Maybe him firing Mocha Joe was kind of just like he couldn't stand it. He couldn't stand to be, around him. He just fires.
And like Giuliani's a lawyer, okay, but like I don't know if he got disbarred. He got like some big fine or something, but it's not like you would want to have Rudy Giuliani as your lawyer in certain instances. You know what I mean? So like
Right.
like having Mocha Joe lawyer Mocha Joe be your lawyer, like I really feel like that could like fuck things up for you. Even if he's not Mocha Joe, even if he's just like a lawyer from Atlanta that looks like Mocha Joe, like he might not be the right guy. He might be a guy that deals with like parking tickets or something. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Right. So what, I mean, if you plead not guilty, I mean, I don't know, he did it. So, I mean, it's like, what is I wonder what his defense, not that it matters, but I mean.
Well, sometimes
legally.
Sometimes people will take it. In this instance, Larry would be, and this is way, and Larry says like way going overboard. This is kind of like the good trouble, kind of like, March on Selma stuff where it's like, he's going to plead not guilty because the law isn't right. So he's going to risk himself and do jail time because the law is stupid. And I'm pleading not guilty because of his conscience is like saying like, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, he broke the law, he broke the statute, but the statute itself is fucked up. So,
I mean, that's what they're thinking. He's really just doing it because he's kind of ashamed and he's trying to.
Oh, that's definitely why Larry's doing it.
But like if you were a person in Atlanta, I'm sure this happened to somebody, right? I mean, that's why we all know about this.
Yeah, it must have happened. It must have happened.
So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. This isn't the kind of thing where he's going to go to jail now. I assume he'll be released at his own reconnaissance or whatever. But they probably set a trial date and he'll have to defend himself. So, or hire a lawyer or hire many. Maybe he'll go through a bunch of different lawyers. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, they said, 90 days hence. So I guess he gets to go home and then we'll see Vince Vaughn and whatever the other people.
Right.
He's waiting for the trial. And like the fatwa, I think it's going to wait the very end of the episode, like we were saying, like maybe he dies, but maybe he goes to jail.
Maybe he goes to jail, right? That could be it. That's how Seinfeld ended. You remember the famous, finale that everybody hated?
Yeah.
They actually went to jail at the end. And you're right. Maybe that is how it'll end. I mean, or maybe that's too obvious, but I don't know. It would be interesting.
Well, is it,
Larry...
I mean, could you see him wrapping up his two big show? I mean, he wasn't part of Seinfeld in the last season, was he?
They brought him in. Yeah, he came back to do the last few episodes. I
could see it sort of in a The Force Awakens kind of way. Like what, how about I reference the Seinfeld finale and my own finale?
I think, sure. There was always, they even did a joke about it during that Seinfeld season where he was talking to Jason Alexander, one of my favorite bits, but Jason Alexander says, "Oh, we can finally do the finale right," and Larry's like, "There was nothing wrong with the finale," because that was always like the criticism of the Seinfeld finale was that it was kind of lame. I mean, whatever. I thought it was kind of. I like the idea of it. I'm not sure that it worked necessarily comedically. Like,
I don't really. I'm gonna have to rewatch it because I don't really remember. I saw it when it was on, but
the idea was. Sorry,
go ahead.
I mean, the idea of this Seinfeld finale was, and I'm sorry, this is a little sidetrack here, but
no spoiler for me.
Yes, okay. So they witnessed a guy getting mugged, and they didn't do anything. In fact, they stood by and laughed, and actually Kramer took out a video camera or whatever and filmed him. And there was in Massachusetts, actually. And in Massachusetts, there is a law that says you are obligated to help. It's like the Good Samaritan law, which is, I don't know if I would do it. As long as it's safe for you to do so, I guess, is kind of what it is. But anyways, this guy took him to court, and his lawyer brought out all these people throughout the entire run of Seinfeld that they had, wronged. So it was kind of like it's all coming back to haunt you kind of a thing. So I wonder if they would do, I mean, it's kind of, is it too obvious, or would they do that here? Would all these people come back that have been on all 12 seasons or 11 plus seasons of Curb to like get back at Larry. And maybe that would be the ultimate thing if that was Mocha Joe or something. I mean, I don't know. Like,
well, I think that the element to comedy is the surprise, right? So
yeah,
even the most obvious thing that's too obvious is a good surprise. Like
right.
It might be obvious and really difficult to pull off. Like, I don't know.
Well,
I would like to see how they're going to wrap it up. It's sad how they're going to be wrapping it up, but I just looked at this up it's on the New York Times referencing these episodes. It says violating the food and water law, the food and water ban in Georgia is a misdemeanor punishable by 12 months in jail. So that's a real thing.
That's true.
And a maximum fine of $1,000. Though it is unlikely that what happened with him and Auntie Ray is that someone would have, arrested him, put him in a police car.
Right.
That's what they're saying. So I couldn't find that actually happened to somebody, but it seems like it's plausible, and it's a year jail time, that's serious, man.
That is insane. I don't know what that.
Like
that's why they're protesting it.
Here's one thing too. And they mentioned it's like Jeff Schaefer, the producer, says we're always going to Atlanta because of the barbaric law that you can't give anyone food or water. We were talking about stories, and Larry said this law is insane. I think it'd be funny if I got arrested for that. So he just saw it and thought it was funny.
There you go.
But here's the fun part of doing the show is kind of thinking of twists and turns and, doing a little like fun research, seeing what people are saying like about stuff or whatever. But, even when we do Vampire Council too, it's like, oh, I wonder if, baby Colin is going to come back, or what do we think is going to happen? And we're always, when we take like big shots, we're always like super wrong, but it's super fun to think about stuff. So what if Larry were to be sentenced to jail, but also, how they're always talking about how old the two presidential candidates are, like either one of them could actually just die. What Larry could go to jail and he could die in jail.
Oh God, that would be crazy. I mean, I guess I don't know where it could go, but yeah, I feel like this is going to be the storyline. Like there'll be a few episodes, or maybe it's standalones, but this is going to be the storyline as we go through.
Yeah, hopefully we're going to get a great Vince Vaughn episode. That's just him going out.
I mean, they have to. I don't say they have to. I would like it if they squeezed in a lot of them. We know Richard Lewis will be on it from the trailer, and we know Ted Danson and Cheryl are going to be on it. So we will see all these people. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be the last. This is it. So,
and do we get? Do we get Jerry? Who knows?
I mean, who knows? I was thinking that too. I was thinking, I wonder if Jerry will cameo, So, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, whatever. We'll be watching, obviously.
We will see.
You're right. We are usually wrong. So, I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, we're trying to pick up the big picture stuff. It's really tough because they don't want you to know. You know what I mean? But I think that also, I'll just say it again, like this season's patois, where we don't get like the end of this, basically from the glasses being taken off his head to whatever the sentencing is going to be the whole season. So he has 90 days,
that's true.
That they need to fill in before they could just like the last episode is the trial episode, the trial of Larry David.
I think that's probably what it'll be. So yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe some of these people will get called as witnesses or something like that, character witnesses. I don't know. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting.
Like I said last episode too, when I saw Larry and Susie Essman on Morning Joe, and they showed a little clip. And then obviously in this episode we had Stacey Abrams and
Bruce
Springsteen. Yeah, and like we have the anchor, like the TV anchors, like playing themselves.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And they were, if you watch that clip, they're like, oh, we're not going to spoil anything. We're not going to spoil anything. But he does go on that show being interviewed, like, you know, so for the media furor around this Glasses Gate, he seems to be growing, and he still does have fans, and the story is spreading nationally too.
All right.
So
well, there we go.
And that's kind of behind the scenes.
Interesting. Yes. Well, I'm glad. And speaking of doing media and things, thank you for pointing out this to me. He is Larry was a guest on Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, which is one of my favorite podcasts. So check that out. And check us out, LeaguePodcast.com, Spotify.
Yeah, while you're in your
Apple.
podcast app.
Right.
Listening to Conan.
Yeah.
Oh,
stop by, follow ours.
It's like Conan asks you to rate and subscribe to this podcast. Why don't you do the same to us?
Yeah,
you're right there.
You got your subscribe finger out. It's a little misshapen now because it's slowly becoming a shoehorn. But, you know, just press it while you still have
evolution is going to make it so that hitting the like and subscribe button to us on YouTube and Spotify and wherever you get your Apple Podcasts, of course.
Yeah, so use that finger while it's still a finger, and give us a listen and a like, follow, all those things. And that's it. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week for episode 3. See where the story goes.
Looks like there's a dinner party.
Oh, always good. And some golfing.
We got Irma's Musk.
All right.
I guess I'll sign off by saying this, Durson. See you at the club.
Can I help you find anything?
Oh, hey there.
How you doing?
Good. Interested in buying a lawn jockey, they're called, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. Yeah.
Yeah, a lawn jockey, yeah. I noticed that they're all pretty much the same, ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
Wondering if perhaps you had any darker ones?
Darker how?
Black.